give us some better trust for the public. I think you're right, that's a good point.
Along with the airport manager, the FBL is good to come into the meeting and give a report on information he has that can be helpful to the board also. So I still think it's an opportunity to express yourself and be a part of it. Because I still think, any council, if you come on board, we still probably sit in on some of these meetings with some discussions, so not continue trying to educate everybody, but really be a part of the education process.
That airplane license.
So the recommendation then is number 4, the membership position for the FBO will be taken off. And that, I believe, is now a 7-member board again. We have 5 voting members. The 2 non-voting members of the board will be the 2 members of the city council. Any other discussion with the council? Yeah, the chair with the motions, the council on the airport license.
I move that we delete section 4, line 4, regarding the FBO representation on the board.
And accept the rest of it.
Well, I'm not sure if we're going to accept things. I'm not quite clear on some of these things. You need the contents of the whole.
Well, it's the airport license board. You can remove that, but the rest of it, I feel the council feel comfortable with that. Opposed?
Can take it separately, just move that out.
We can do that. Most of the council members pondered that we remove item 4, which removes the membership of the FBO off the airport license board.
Okay.
The second, Councilman Franco, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 4 ayes, which pass the motion. Councilman Patterson says nay on the motion. That part's set. Whether is number 3 and 2 okay for council? 2 and 3. 3 Heber City residents
Yes.
and 2 Wasatch County residents. So the only question left is the 2 city council members.
And I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2014-05, excluding number 4, the FBO, which
Second.
Second, Councilman Patterson. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd like to see if we can amend that motion to include, under residency requirements, it's the council to require primary residency as articulated by the city manager in his report.
Upon residency for the Heber City and Wasatch County.
I'll amend it to that, yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make another amendment to the motion, please. Where it's number 8, members should be required to attend at least 60% of the publicized meetings of the board. I would like to add within a 12-month period starting the month of their appointment. You know, or I should perhaps say within each 12-month period starting after the month of their appointment. So we want them there 60% of the meetings every year that they serve, not just a general 60% kind of vague requirement.
Would you like to make a motion there? Add that.
No, I'm not looking. I'd just like to go with what we have here. Members shall be required to attend at least 60% publicized meetings of the board.
Keep track of that minutes anyway.
Jeff made a motion, second.
I made a second.
Jeff, Robert did. We have discussion.
Do we want to hear anything from Mr. Smedley? Do you have any comments on this? I know he has some comments on the slide.
You've addressed the comments I think I have, and I have no real concern with what you propose.
I just like your last one. For there's a potential conflict between the two conflicts. I like that. That's his last comment.
The board, the air, may I, Mayor? The airport board conflict of interest policy is different than what we just discussed today, which is the general policy for all boards and the city council. There's a difference in those two conflict of interest policies. So at some time, you don't need to do it tonight, but at some time it might be good for the council to take a look at those and decide whether they want to combine it and hybrid it or adopt one or the other with regard to the airport board and making distinctions.
Point of information, can I ask Mr. Smedley a question? How do we enforce this point that about 60% of the publicized meetings, is it the 60% average of their entire term? Or, no, how do we interpret that?
Kind of came to that same thing, that residency thing, where you said, what is a resident? Without the distinction that you talked about, I think a person could argue and say, hey, it doesn't say annual, it just says 60% of the time that I'm on the board. And so a person could argue that. Other reasonable people would say, well, what we really mean is every year, be there 60% of the time. And so a person could argue both ways. It's probably a good idea to make a definitive decision either way. So say 60% of the publicized meetings for the time the person is on the board, or 60% every year. It'd be good to make the distinction one way or the other.
Could I ask a little point of information there? Eric, how is it that you track attendance right now on the airport board? Because we did see attendance records for the different board members, and some of them for the last year were below that 60% average. And so I'm just kind of wondering how does the airport board do it right now?
We track by minutes, by the roll call, not an official roll call, but minutes report was.
Is it every year that you kind of take into account?
They know it.
You didn't look at that. I mean, just overall, the overall kind of history, not just minutes.
To my knowledge, we haven't officially called any board members that I can think of, with the exception of one who we simply just replaced. That was years ago. With my knowledge, usually if we do find a member has shown a consistent absence record, we'll approach them and ask them, is everything okay? Is there an issue with the schedule? And even a few years ago, we did see there was a conflict with some, and we changed the meeting schedule so that we could call them on members. So we have approached them, but as far as it never got to the point where we need to reach for an action.
Well, I'm hoping we'll put a little teeth in here for the airport board so that they could act in a timely way and not have to let things drag on. That's my concern.
So I would hope that, I think most of my commitments and time, try to make as many of the board meetings as possible. I also think that the chair of the airport board, they would be reminding the meeting, if they're having conflicts with meetings there, they can suggest them, and they can move off the rules. So I believe that.
That's what we've done. We've left it up, and we've approached each member if there's an issue. It's been very accommodating so we could. To emphasize that again, it's hard to find that interest, and losing a board member prematurely has been devastating at times to try and maintain a forum. Because we reach out, try and get more people to come and want to participate in the board. It's hard. So rather than initiating any kind of full action, we'll reach out, talk to them, see if there's any problems, rearrange their schedule so we can accommodate them. And generally, it's a scheduling conflict. So I think, like Aaron was saying, allow the chairman to make that call. And it's something which could be reasonable, I think, by giving that authority. So we're aware. I mean, it's a small board. If someone's not showing up, we reach out and say what's going on.
Any other discussion on this? Yeah.
I put the language on this, on 7 even, where it says meet it before the election. I think we've used that election language, but I think that's confusing because what election are we talking about? Do we just want to say 30 days before their appointment, perhaps? And then the second section talks about the jurisdiction in which they apply to register to vote, maybe just the jurisdiction period. Whether they're the county or the state, or in county or the city.
Residency jurisdiction.
Yeah. That was just a question. And then I'm wondering if we need to have something about, in an unlikely event that the mayor nominated some people and the council didn't consent, what would happen for those 4 months on the board when we are short people? Would there be some language perhaps to say that the people who were previously serving will continue, so that we don't end up with these time periods where our board isn't full of staff? Well, they haven't. I know that Tom Member was serving, and now he's not, so they're...
Well, his term is up. Yeah, that's your point.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if his term is up, and for some reason this mayor and council don't come up with some names, what happens for that time period? If they're making important decisions, we want to make sure we have a fully set board, particularly if you only have 5 voting members. That might be important here to add on the second page.
Any discussion on Franco and Potter's thoughts?
For the first one regarding 7B, Mark, where it says, has been a resident of Utah for at least 30 days immediately before the election, can that word be changed to appointment?
Right, what we were trying to capture was the adoption pursuant to the state code that
Right.
says every election that you have a general election, that's going to be the time period. But certainly you can say, we're not going to worry about election, we're going to say the appointment to the board.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend changing election to appointment.
As I understand Kelly's point, it's usually a custom, kind of a precedent thing that the same board members will continue, but it's not specified, and it would be nice to specify it. Perhaps it could be included in D on the second page where we're talking about terms of office and initial appointments and vacancies. Right there, the appointment will be for the remaining term of the member. If appointments are not filled, then, until appointments are filled, previous board members can continue to serve, maybe something like that.
And this is specified somewhere else, is it not specified?
It's not, and I appreciate your willingness to distinguish it. There are 2 roles, and I put that in that legal opinion, so this would be an opportune time to distinguish it, and just decide, you as the council, what rule you want to follow. Either side, either rule is supported by precedent.